Okay, we're going to look at the relationship between the real interest rate and investment. Okay, so we can argue that aggregate expenditure equals aggregate demand equals consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. You know all of this. We're going to keep things simple. We remove the net export, so we say this is a closed economy, and so we have the following identity. But we're also going to say that investment is influenced by the real interest rate. Okay, so what we're basically saying is that investment will change when the real interest rate changes. Okay, so we're going to look at this situation over here. Okay, so put that to one side, and we simply suggest, as I mentioned earlier, that there is a negative or inverse relationship between the real interest rate and investment. Okay, so if real interest rate goes up, investment should come down. If the real interest rate goes down, investment should go up. So we can look at that graphically. Put that up to one side and I draw a graph. Here we have the amount of investment. Here we have our real interest rate. And here we simply have an investment function. Okay, function of investment. Okay, and what we are arguing is that there is a negative relationship between the real interest rate and investment. So for example, if the real interest rate is high, the quantity demanded for investment will be fairly low. If it's expensive to borrow money to expand your business, or to indeed to start a business, there will be less investment. Hence, there will be less business activity. On the other hand, if the rate of investment is if the interest rate is low, more businesses would be likely to borrow money, and the amount of investment will be high. Okay, so as I've mentioned before, there is a negative relationship between the real interest rate and the quantity of investment. Okay, things can also change if there is a shift in investment behavior. So for example, I'll put this to one side. What happens if there is a change in business behavior? Businesses are starting to think differently. Okay, what if businesses start to get pessimistic? Okay, this is when businesses think that I think the Australian economy is from this point onwards not going to do as well as it used to do. Right? You can expect that there will be a that you can expect that there would now be a fall in the investment function, right? Given no change in interest rates, businesses will now be less likely to invest, right? It doesn't matter if interest rates are low, they simply don't want to invest as much as they used to before, because they simply don't think that they're going to make as much money as before, right? But the opposite would occur if they start becoming more optimistic, if they think that from this point onwards, the Australian economy is going to do much better than it used to do in the past. In this situation, there will be an increase in the investment intentions, right? So in both cases, with no change in the interest rate, there would be a change in investment. There would be a change in investment. So we can show that on the graph. So let's move this aside, bring the graph back. First, we show you the situation with the pessimism. Okay, with the pessimism, the investment function is now going to be I1. Okay, right? I1, even when the interest rate doesn't change, look at R2. Right? Previously at R2, businesses would be willing to invest, to borrow enough money to invest I2 amounts of investment. Okay, but now with no change in the interest rate, they're going to start investing less. How much less? Well, they will start investing I3. There will be a fall in the investment. Right? On the other hand, if they were more optimistic, the investment function will shift outwards. I'll call that Fi2. Okay. So in this situation, let me just make that a bit longer. In this situation, what will happen at interest rate R2? Well, at interest rate R2, they will now start borrowing money, in order to be able to invest I4 amounts of investment. Okay, so you have the initial situation where I argued there is a negative or inverse relationship between the interest rate and investment, right? And the second situation where you have the shifts in the investment function. It really is no different from our analysis in lecture 2 about demand, where we spoke about the change in the quantity demanded and a change in demand. Here we have a situation where we have a change in the quantity invested because of the negative or inverse relationship between the real interest rate and investment, and a change in investment, which is a shift in our investment functions with no change in the real interest rate.